The Pittock Mansion. Historic, foreboding, mysterious. The perfect backdrop for a well-done horror.
Go ahead.
Echo. I hear an echo. Yeah. Someone's feeding the TV sound is on. Thank goodness I screwed up.
We're still live. Yeah. Hey, Facebook.
Hey.
Hey, Facebook.
All right. Here we go again. The Pittock Mansion. Historic, foreboding, mysterious. The perfect backdrop. Dang it. Take 3. No, it's too loud. The Pittock Mansion. Historic, foreboding, mysterious. The perfect backdrop for a well-done killer horror movie. Maybe one day they'll make one there. We watched Unhinged and The Haunting of Sarah Hardy, so that means it's time for another Portland at the Movies.
In a world, in a time, in a land of eternal beauty, all that stands between a city and a disaster. In a city where anything can happen. If you thought you had seen it all.
Now we're finding out. Aren't we? Aren't we? Aren't we?
Hello and welcome to another episode of Portland at the Movies. I am one of your hosts, Todd Workoven, and with me, as always, is Mark Middleton. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing really well.
Good.
I don't know about technology, but I'm doing okay.
Good. I'm a little thrown because the lead outs of the film strip noise did not come up in my sounder, and now I'm all worried. But we are also joined, of course, by Brian, the Unipiper Kid. How are you, Brian?
Hello, Todd. I'm doing very well.
Good. Portland's most fabulous? Or
Most fabulous.
Most fabulous.
You can address me as Your Royal Highness.
Or your fabulousness.
Yes.
Well, we watched 2 really interesting movies for this episode. 2 dueling horror movies, both of which were filmed almost completely at the Pittock Mansion.
It was kind of unplanned.
Yeah, I was going to say, which we didn't really know until I started watching them. I was like, oh, Brian picked these because both of them were filmed at the Pittock Mansion.
Of course I did.
And the weird thing about that is that when I went to I think it was on the Pittock Mansion website or something affiliated, and they were like, movies filmed here. They had 3 listed: Unhinged, The Haunting of Sarah Hardy, and Body of Evidence, which is
Right, Madonna.
But there has got to be more movies than just those 3 that have the Pittock Mansion in it.
There's one from the 1970s. It's on the Wikipedia page. I don't remember what it's called.
Okay.
But there's one more.
Because I just felt that
not much.
Oh, yeah. I do remember it was one more.
But that seems crazy. I mean, because especially for how many things have been filmed here that we're finding out, for it not to show up is, I wonder if the rules changed or if just people don't ask or know it's there. Or
So I was at the Pittock Mansion today talking with the executive director and the marketing manager.
Wow.
And
For the podcast, of course.
It incidentally happened to coincide with the podcast, but
did you tell him what you were doing or not? Did you just not bring it up?
No. I talked to both of them. The executive director, her name is Jen, and neither of them have seen these movies, which was also shocking to me.
That's terrible.
Both were recorded in the 1980s, and the other one in the 70s. And they hadn't seen. They'd heard rumors about, that one's really gory and this, but nothing else. And they said attendance at the mansion just wasn't a tourist attraction like it is today, and so it was really not attended back in that period. And so they were much more open to renting it out, and clearly they rented this place out for a long period of time. That all the interiors and all of the exteriors were used in the movie, and both movies used many of the same interiors and everything.
I think I read Unhinged filmed there for 19 consecutive days.
Oh yeah, I was just looking that up. 19 consecutive nights.
Yeah, and just for completeness' sake, the other movie was called First Love.
First Love
from 1977.
Okay,
I'll watch that one sometime.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll get that on the list.
Man, I feel like a bad Portlander. I've never been to the Pittock
I
Mansion.
have not either, and I think it's one of those things you do like when a tourist comes to town or something like that. And I feel like maybe back when I was married, that was something like my wife would take me to the Pittock Mansion. So I've just never. It's kind of like the Grotto. I think I've been to the Grotto like once.
Or it's
maybe.
something you do in first grade, and if you didn't go to first grade in
On the
Portland,
field
you
trip,
probably
yeah.
haven't done it.
Yeah.
I've been to the mansion from the outside. just
See,
to
and I
see
haven't
it.
even been up there.
Yeah.
So yeah, both of these movies. One of them called Unhinged. The second is called The Haunting of Sarah Hardy, and we'll kind of take Unhinged first, and then move on to Sarah Hardy. Unhinged was filmed in 1982 by a man named Don Gronquist. He had made a couple other. Was this his?
It was his second film.
His second film.
Right.
The other one we're trying to hunt down Rockabilly Rocky and the something or other.
In the Hop of Life. I don't know.
Yeah, so that one
It's a great title.
That one is going to be interesting to kind of dig up too to see where it is. But this movie I had $100,000 budget and, like we said, filmed on location for 19 nights.
Fiercely independent production.
Yeah, and it sounded like this was not in the thick, from what I understand. David Walker, who comes up in like every single movie we
What's going on over
research.
there?
Can you reboot?
I was gonna say my hard drive was spinning down there for a second. But he talks about this 80s heyday of like the independent filmmaker and like the gritty productions and stuff like that. We saw the little with Fatal Revenge and Total Reality. I have a feeling this was kind of the beginning
I
of
think
that,
so.
like crawling out of the
Totally.
grime of the 70s grindhouse stuff,
Yep.
Doing stuff on the cheap. Although $100,000 isn't cheap, but I would imagine a big portion of that is renting the Pittock Mansion for 19 nights. But do you want to? So the only other location in this besides the Pittock Mansion, they do have a shot. Mark, what I put in your airdrop is a shot of the St. John's Bridge, which
That's a pretty
made
cool
me
shot.
see. It made me sad because that bridge is beautiful, and they did like some kind of crazy mid shot.
It was a cool shot, but you're right. They don't fully take advantage of what
Because
they
at
have
first I
there.
thought it was like the I-5 bridge, or like it was really I was
I-
kind of bummed
I'm
because
wondering how they did that shot, actually.
there was a credit.
Yeah, they clearly did helicopter shots throughout, like all of the. There were several overhead
Oh,
shots.
that's right.
Panning, and so
Yeah.
they spent a day with the helicopter.
Yeah, and I did see that in the credits. There
Yep.
was a helicopter rental place. So, well, do you want to, Brian? Do you want to walk us through Unhinged?
Sure, I'll start us off, and we'll see where we end up.
Okay.
But Unhinged is the story of three girls who go off to go see a rock concert together. It's pretty much the start of so many horror films of the time, of the early 80s slasher flick. You know, you have your cast of teenage characters, and they go off on an adventure together and quickly find themselves getting into trouble. And that's what happens here. We get these three girls. Let's see, there's the black-haired girl, there's the blonde girl, and then there's the young girl.
I guess.
So many feathers going.
And
in both
these
movies, really.
girls were. I wrote it several times. The worst actresses
yes.
I have ever.
I wrote it
seen.
too in all capital letters.
I wrote it. I was like, Terry is the worst performer I have ever seen of any kind.
Do you happen to have a clip of their acting?
I was gonna find one here
Because it is like they are reading the script and they're holding the script and they're seeing it for the very first time, and they're not a very good
and
reader.
they've never spoken English before. But I mean, it was like the room level.
It was shocking.
Bad.
It was. There was
jarring.
There was one clip where she's interacting with the guy
The groundskeeper?
the groundskeeper.
Yes.
And he asks her a question. Hey, do you want me to bring some of the wood inside? And she stares at him. And then he asks her again, do you want me to bring some wood in? And I think that was not part of the script. Like, that just seemed like she just stalled.
And what's great about that scene is that I think they just shot it on 2 different days because they're clearly not talking to each other anyway. And both of them, I mean, that's like a 5-minute scene. And Terry, is standing there with her arms crossed and kind of just do it. And they
weird.
both stand there the same way for the entire conversation, like unmoving, unframed,
Unhinged.
I hope you like a lot of talking and sleeping in your slasher flicks, because that's what you're gonna get with Unhinged. But I gotta say, when this movie, when I first started watching it, it was quickly living up to its title. I was like, all right, we're in for something special here. Because for the first I clocked it, 2 minutes and 45 seconds of this movie is nothing but text and a black screen.
Wow.
And then, you know what I'm talking about. It's like she's waking up and, well, the screen stays black for a full minute and there's no text and there's just sound. And I thought there was something wrong.
I thought the YouTube video I watched forgot. And the impression I got from this entire movie, and it's funny because we just started our Facebook Live broadcast, and it has that weird delay, so we're watching it 5 seconds there, and I feel like this movie was on delay with itself, and so somebody would stop talking, and it would cut to another character just standing there and not responding for like 10 seconds, and then fade to black.
Someone commented on that on the IMDb page. It's like
really?
a goof, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was
There's
insane.
something weird going on with the sound.
Yeah, and it wasn't, I felt like it wasn't just the sound, but they, like you said, they would just cut back to people who were doing nothing. It would cut to a black screen, and it would cut to all this.
But it's like Don Gronquist. Is that right?
I think so. Gronquist.
It's hard to say. It's like he felt bad for giving us 2 minutes and 45 seconds of blackness, because then the very first visual we get is like boobies.
It went 0 to boobs very, very quickly.
It's true.
It's like.
And then he
all
made
right,
up for it by giving us like
Unhinged.
a real-time drive up the hill to Pittock Mansion, because there was so much driving footage. And then they would cut to the car and they would chit-chat, and then it would be more driving.
They had the helicopter for day.
They're gonna get
use,
But
get all the footage
okay.
out that they can.
So we assemble this cast of girls, and then they go off on their trip, and they're going to the concert, and it is a shot-for-shot remake of The Evil Dead, because they're going off to the cabin, and you're seeing the car, and they're having conversation, and it is exactly. And so Evil Dead came out in 1981.
Oh, okay, so this is hot on the heels of that then.
Yeah, so this movie truly is a product of its time. It is a time capsule.
Yeah.
And
Well, that and the music.
the music too.
The music is bonkers.
It's really cool. I always talk about this movie, and I'm sure I've told you to watch it before, and you probably haven't, but It Follows. Did you ever watch that?
Oh, I don't think, because I couldn't find it, I think, and then I gave up and forgot.
Okay, it's my favorite horror film from the past 10 years.
Okay, I'll watch it then.
And
I say again.
it is the way that it is filmed is really great, because you have no idea what year it's supposed to be taking place in. It could be 1986 or it could be 2006. It's just really ambiguous. And it has a synth score to go
this
with
much very much was like if it was a knockoff of Evil Dead in that shot, this was a knockoff of every John Carpenter score ever, because it was just like spooky synths and all of that.
It was actually really fun, and in the like hardcore horror slasher subgenre, people actually really like the score for this.
Oh, really?
film.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I have. So after they crack, why don't you talk about After They Crack? Because then I have some sound of the dialogue.
Okay,
include
yeah.
A couple more people in it, so we'll set that up.
So they end up. Our story sets up. The car crashes. I think there's a log in the road, and they just run off the road, and then everything goes black. And then one of the girls, I think it's blonde-haired girl, wakes up. She's in the Pittock mansion, and there's two people standing at the foot of her bed. It's Mrs. Penrose.
Yep.
And the groundskeeper, and she's in the Pittock mansion, and she's being told that there was an accident. We rescued you. We brought you here, and your friends are recovering.
Yeah, and so I'll play this little to kind of get our head around the dialogue. So there is.
Oh, we should comment that it was a thunderstorm when they crashed. It was very bad weather, and that's immediately when I knew that it was not supposed to take place in Portland when there was a bad thunderstorm.
So this scene, I think, where this is from, this dialogue is from. So the two girls are invited down to dinner, and at dinner it's this kind of scary old school marm type, older woman in her 50s, and then there's Mother. Yeah. And so here's a little bit of the dialogue. I'm hearing someone's sound is on me.
Is that you, Mark?
Mark's watching a movie over there.
Mark, we're recording now.
Sorry.
All right.
The male influence. Marion is more of an authority on that than I. Isn't that so, Marion?
Marion.
We're still filming,
Hello?
When I
Marion.
was a child, I was taught that it was proper to
Line.
be truthful and respectful to one's parents. But take Marianne here, for example.
Line.
She thinks nothing at all of lying to me.
So there's a little taste of the old mother who is just a terrible person to Marion, who is the person that lives. I mean, the house. She's the daughter of the mom.
Right. So she's kind of like the caretaker of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
house and the mother. She kind of runs the show.
She kind of looks like the Wicked Witch of the West before she went to Oz. So like Mrs. Gulch so she's kind of that type of woman. And I'm trying to find, and I have to find it blind, some dialogue with the three girls. So I might poke around here a second.
Yeah.
And see, every time it's just nothing but silence all the time.
Right. There's a lot of sleeping in this movie that I think I mentioned.
Well, and I noticed that I'm just playing like straight audio from, and there has not been there it goes.
Some of that great score.
Yeah. But part of it was recorded at a place called Rex Recording, and I used to record ads there when I was in advertising. So there's some of our synthesizer sounds.
I'm not being facetious when I say it's a cool score. Like, that is amazing. It doesn't get more 1982 than that.
This is like when I...
So,
Sorry.
funny enough, the composer is a professor at PSU now, and you can
really?
take a music course from him.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if he leads off with this. I'm trying to find
Just to get back at her.
with the girls talking.
You
Oh,
must think us terribly undisciplined.
Go
We
ahead.
totally skipped by the very beginning of the movie, something that I wanted to bring up.
Oh, yeah,
And you probably know what I'm going to say on the radio. That
yeah.
Yes.
So in the very first scene, after there's an interminable amount of just black screen.
Right, so
there's
we mentioned it's 2 minutes and 45 seconds until we see boobies, until we see anything, I mean. But in that time, we learned that our main character is like waking up, and that's why it's black
and
screen.
and you
and it's
hear
like the radio
go
comes
off.
on, and that's her alarm clock. And while that radio is playing, we get a vintage 1982 Taco Time ad.
Taco Time
Taco
ad.
Time. Okay, so Taco Time.
Should I find it? I can find it.
Taco Time is something that I'd never seen growing up. It is
Well,
definitely a West Coast chain.
Yeah, totally.
It's a Northwest thing.
Northwest
Yeah,
thing, because
yeah.
they didn't have them in California.
It started in
either.
Eugene. I looked that up today.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
interesting. Let's
Today
see
I
if
learned.
I can.
But that is such a great
Yeah,
ad.
this might be.
It's 5:32 in the morning on the Dave Hood Show.
I didn't know if that was a real
Note to
person
you
either.
rock and rollers out there, if you're planning on heading up to Pinewood for the big music festival,
He was credited as himself,
Oh,
so it may be a real DJ.
Interesting.
50% chance of rain with temperatures dipping into the mid-60s.
all right. Give this our Taco Time ad.
And now this.
And now
It's
this.
time.
It's time.
Taco time.
That's so great.
most
That's so
awesome.
great.
That's gonna be my
And
new.
they did get a special mention in the credits too.
They
Taco
did,
Time
yeah.
did. Yeah.
That's gonna be my new ringtone. This is probably just as good as place as any for me to mention. Did you read the trivia on IMDb for this movie?
I didn't.
Oh my god, it contained the most amazing trivia I've ever read for any film on IMDb, hands down. I'm not exaggerating this time. I'm reading this quote.
Okay.
IMDb says trivia for this movie: the majority of vehicles that appear in Unhinged happen to be either white or whitish, light-colored vehicles. Perhaps a trend in Portland at the time, or just coincidence.
What? Who would take the time
To note-
to note that for this movie?
Right.
Like the thing you want people to know about Unhinged is that there are whitish cars
I
in
can
it.
only recall one car in this movie, period.
And it was yeah, you're right, because it was just them.
their car.
Oh my gosh.
Whitish.
White-
Whitish. It was whiter.
Or whitish.
Yeah.
It was obviously a trend going on in the
Uh,
auto industry.
The other thing is that not only was the driving in real time, but we have several scenes of real time wine pouring. Like everyone at dinner
Right.
getting their drinks filled up. Like
First
in
it was
real time.
white wine, and the second night it was red wine.
What was up with? Are we going to get to that point?
Go ahead. Yeah.
What- So there were several times where during dinner they just have this moment where the music swells and the crazy mom is focusing on a salt and pepper shaker,
Yes.
or
She does that twice.
Twice.
In the
She
movie
does it twice.
for no reason.
And I was like, okay,
they
there's
focus
gonna
on
be
it for like a minute.
there's gonna be like a supernatural element. She has powers.
Everyone at the dinner table notices is like they make a big deal of her staring, like they push into her.
Describe what she does.
It's like she's talking and then gets distracted, like she sees something on the table and then kind of goes into a trance and just like stares.
And the camera kind of shakes.
Yeah, and like goes in and like it's right on the vantage point of the. I don't even know what it is. I didn't know if they're egg holders or salt and pepper.
They didn't ever
never
go
comes
there.
back. No,
They
nor did they ever again try to say that she was possessed or like in a zone of
It's
some
like
sort.
a subplot that was just
It
abandoned.
was just hacked out. Yeah, that was I had that as a big question mark. Why does Grandma zone out while looking at salt and pepper?
We should remind folks that this is a slasher film, and we are like 45 minutes into the film by this point, and our main characters are so by this point the main characters, the three girls, they're all still alive, and they're told that in Pittock Mansion, where they've been taken, it's a rural mansion, and they're miles from the nearest town.
It's very misery.
They don't have a phone
Yeah.
in the house, but they need to call mom, let them know they're okay.
Yeah.
So the dark-haired girl decides that she will walk the, treacherous path into town. It's going to take her half a day to get there, and it's not for the faint of heart.
If she's lucky.
If she's lucky, yeah, says groundskeeper Willie. So she sets off to go find a phone in town, and then they expect it's a long trip, so it may take her overnight. So they don't get alarmed when she doesn't come back. But she's our first victim, and it's like a full 45 minutes, I think, before we see our first death.
At least, yeah.
There's only three main characters, so there's only going to be at a maximum 3 deaths, which is kind of. That's another thing. While we're at it, the tone of this movie, like, it's obviously they're trying to cash in on the early '80s slasher.
Last House on the Left.
Don Gronquist is just watching these films be made for nothing, and then make tons of money.
Yeah,
and that's what he's trying to do here.
Yeah,
but he's also
he only had one ketchup bottle though to squirt people with blood, so he had to use it.
The tone also it's a very slowly paced film, and it's almost like he's trying to make a Dario Argento more psychological horror film at the same time, and he doesn't know if it should be more slasher or more psychological, and it just ends up kind of being boring.
Yeah, and he wanted to do Hitchcock, the slow burn, and I think that's everything was a slow burn. He was confusing nothing happening with slow burn.
Yeah, yeah.
So like a scene would just like literally end after nothing happened, and then another 5 seconds of black screen. And then, like, the story would continue. Like, nothing was accomplished or done.
And then they would go to bed. And then we'd see them sleep for 5 minutes.
In the room with... Now, Mark, when you were there, how was this place? It's really hard to tell in this movie because it's so dark, which is a shame because, like... And maybe it's because it was a bad YouTube video, but...
Right.
Are you suggesting that we did not acquire this movie?
I don't know that there is a way to legally acquire this movie. But it was hard to tell, like... how the house was laid out. So do you have any insight of like what parts of the house did you see or were in?
Yeah, for both these movies, it's the general rooms. I didn't go through all of the rooms at the mansion the other day when I was there. I was there today for a presentation. I was there last week to prepare for the presentation. I didn't go through every single room in the upstairs, which is where the bedrooms are.
Okay.
But the sitting room and the oval room, the bathroom that's in the other movie, all those things are there.
Oh wow!
And so the bedroom, I did cross-reference, put up both screens from both movies. They're taken from different angles. And
does it still have that?
It seems like there might be. It might actually have
the
been
room was
two
rearranged or something.
Rearranged,
like that.
or the bed, the banister on the backboard on the headboard on the bed. Was different, so I think that did
they still have that terrible rose wallpaper? Because that was in both movies. It was in both movies. Awful wallpaper.
I assume it's there. I don't think I went into the bedroom when I was there the other day.
As I was watching this film in Sarah's parents' house, they had almost the identical wallpaper. It was amazing.
Oh, that's pretty funny. So yeah, the gist of this movie. So the one friend goes off to try to walk home. Go ahead. Yeah,
stop right there. So she's gonna go walk and find the town. Now the groundskeeper isn't a dedicated groundskeeper to this house. He
No.
works for other homes.
Yeah.
So he's traveling
They call him a handyman.
between these homes.
He shows up in a car, doesn't
He
he?
shows up in a car.
Whitish in color.
Why doesn't he give her
Her
a
a ride.
ride?
I think you may have found a flaw in this movie.
Okay, just
So yeah, instead she walks to her doom in the forest, but then the other friend gets hurt in the initial accident, and we
Right.
don't see her show up until we need another body to kill.
Right. Young girl.
She is only there to get killed because she literally wakes up in bed, has a short conversation, and the next scene she gets an axe in the forehead.
Yeah, it was crazy. The whole movie, she's gone.
Yeah.
And then, you're right, she wakes up, and then 2 minutes later, she's dead.
Yeah,
Why are you here?
I think because they just needed someone else to kill. So this whole movie, we every once in a while we'll see like when they're playing, and these girls brought so many clothes to their jazz concert
Yes.
or whatever.
Clothes
They were
that
like
you-
in formal wear.
Something you would never wear at a jazz concert.
Yeah. But they're like playing Scrabble on the ground or whatever, and they hear things or think they see things out rustling in the bushes
They've
outside.
built a routine. They're like living in the house, and it's just like they're playing Scrabble. That we constantly hear. That's good, Mark. We constantly hear this breathing, and then the one scene when the girls are talking about the breathing and what they describe it as. Do you remember that?
I do, and I think I might have that. So I have a clip of just general their acting styles, but then also they are hearing in the walls. Attention, Fun Employment Radio listeners. There's a wall man in this movie where there's a peephole and a heavy breather. So I think this might be. This soundtrack
Love
is
it.
out of
I love
control.
it.
soundtrack is amazing.
Let them know what's happening. In fact, you should talk with her and see if she wants you to tell them anything. And another thing, I don't think we should say anything about
It's so awful. And my favorite.
Bleep this?
I know. Are we allowed to broadcast that film? But the funniest part of that is they'll show a close up like Psycho style, which this I think movie tries to steal a lot from too. They show his eyeball like looking through the peephole, and then they show his vantage point from the peephole, which is the bottom corner of the bed, which would be in smack dab in the middle of the room. Like they're showing it from the vantage point of at the foot of the bed, like, and both girls are in bed. So it made no sense.
You know.
So then the one girl asked the other girl if she heard the heavy breathing, and
Yeah.
she's like, "It sounds like he's doing it with himself."
Doing it with himself. Yeah, I haven't heard that term since junior high, I think. He's doing himself. But then after the girl that goes to look for help, she's wandering around the forest. She stumbles up onto this figure that is holding one of the big sickle or scythe. I never know the difference.
I say sigh.
Scythe.
Yeah.
I'm looking to Mark for confirmation.
Not going to get it from
He's
me.
holding one of those long tools with the curved
Yeah.
blade from Children
Right.
of the Corn, a scythe. And
It's a communist symbol.
she gets hacked to death, which was kind of a bummer. I mean, we're already 45 minutes in, and she gets killed, and all it is like you see blood squirts. Like you don't really.
Yep.
It's not a good kill.
And then close up of her mouth with blood.
Coming out of
pouring
it.
out
Yeah.
of her mouth.
There was one part when she was getting hit by the side, though. She grabbed the blade, and that made me like.
Oh, yeah.
That made me really
Cringe.
uncomfortable. I thought that was
Yeah.
really cool, but
Yep.
then they
It
didn't really.
was.
I thought her fingers were going to come off, but they didn't really go that far. But
No.
I did think that was neat.
Yeah.
But then we get this. This movie is just inexplicably in real time, and
Lives up to its name.
it lives. It is unhinged. So we have the Mrs. Gulch lady. What is her name?
Penrose?
Penrose, Mrs.
Yeah.
Mrs. Penrose. She talks to Terry, who is the blonde, the ditzy blonde,
The main character.
and the main character, and she gives an unfathomably long 3-minute monologue
Oh,
where the camera does not change, it does not move, it is not.
exposition.
It is not. I mean, they are in the mansion. Like they could compose a beautiful shot, but it's like they don't.
You better be
Everything
paying
is-
attention because that's the entire plot is in that 3 minutes.
Yeah. So I have a little clip, and it just goes.
Young
On,
girl,
on, and on.
you must understand. My father was a very undisciplined man. while Mother thought it proper to keep the family unit together. He was off exploring some jungle with his friends.
So she goes on and on and on for 3 minutes and lays out the backstory that they used to live on the East Coast. The dad
Had an affair with a
had an
9-year-old.
affair with yeah. Is that what we're calling it these days?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, and then they had to leave in shame or whatever, and the mother moves away and hates men, so they can't be,
Right.
and that's why the grandma keeps saying, "You and your men in here. I hear men." When she thinks that that Mrs. Penrose.
So that was one of my questions. So why do they have the groundskeeper around if no men are allowed? But
Yeah.
then the groundskeeper is like in the house.
him in his car.
Massaging legs when she wakes up, and like he's all creepy and all up in their business.
Yeah. Whatever.
So then, what happened? So much doesn't happen
and
in this
then,
movie
like,
for so long.
45 minutes go by.
The young girl wakes up and we kill her, and then stuff starts to happen quickly. The main girl is being chased by this unseen man in the wall, and then eventually she's able to hear the backstory that.
Well, she runs upstairs. She runs upstairs to the attic or whatever, and sees a dusty gun and a machete,
and
just laying out on the table,
and a photograph of 2 children.
Yeah, that's right. And then we get another big reveal, which is
she keeps thinking she sees a man, and then
she gets
she's
attacked.
hearing a man, and then there's a man that
comes through
pokes in the window.
And then she runs screaming, and Mrs. Penrose is like, "Oh, don't be afraid." And then she reveals that's our brother. He is mentally challenged. He has to live.
Our mother has disowned men, and so he doesn't exist, but he hangs around.
And he lives in the forest?
And he has the mental capacity of a 5-year-old.
Yeah, and they make him live outside. And like...
And then Terry, our
his
main
name is
character, is
Carl.
like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, she's immediately okay with it.
Well, at least you gave him clothes.
Thanks for explaining that. But then it keeps up, and he continues to harass her, and then he chases her back into the house, and she runs all the way back to the attic. She grabs the gun, and she shoots him in the head.
Yes. And close on their heels is Mrs. Penrose, and she, "What have you done?
Yeah.
What,
Why did you kill Carl?
Why did you kill Carl?" And then she grabs the machete, Mrs. Penrose does, and starts monologuing as she hacks up
she says
Terry
that
to death.
Carl... during the chase, before Terry kills Carl, she stumbles upon the tool shed where there is the dismembered bodies of like 20
I was wondering how many people
girls.
were supposed to be in there.
Well, in the journey, when they were off to the concert, there was a radio broadcast, and they said that 23 girls have gone missing recently. And, like, just imagine that if 23 young women had gone missing.
On the way to Lollapalooza.
Right.
We would probably look into it.
And they're just, like, casually mentioning this.
Well, the other thing I couldn't figure out, did this family living in Pittock Mansion, did they put the log in the road to make them crash?
I don't believe so.
So all 23 people just happened to crash near them and end up at their house.
Somehow these 23 people ended up at the mansion.
Okay,
and
so
they
it was
decided they have to kill them.
sort of accident or whatever.
I would think so.
So Mrs. Penrose is hacking Terry, the dumb blonde, to death, and she starts monologuing.
And she says that Carl had nothing to do with it.
And then
the reveal.
Reveal.
Yeah. So she had killed Carl with a gun.
Yeah.
And then, what's her name?
Miss Penrose? Or Marion?
Marion, yes.
Marion Penrose.
You hear her real voice, and her real voice is a man's voice dubbed over her voice.
Now, and they show a really quick shot of some chest hair, which is really hard to see. And it was expecting the audience to put a lot together really quickly. But I thought she even looked different. I wonder, and it wasn't credited, but I could swear that it was played by a man at the end.
I don't think so.
They looked similar, but I thought, man, because like looking at the rest of the movie, it's clearly a woman, and the person playing it is a woman, but at that very end part, yeah, it is revealed that Mrs. Penrose is a man,
And she's been pretending to be a man.
pretending to be a
woman.
Woman.
because her crazy mom
Yeah.
in the wheelchair hates men, and
Yep.
so she's had to keep up this. But it doesn't give in, like, so how does the murder fit into it? They just can't let anyone.
Right, and why only girls get murdered? Wouldn't girls be the ones that would be okay?
No dudes went to that concert. It was the Indigo Girls concert.
I've been to Indigo Girls concerts.
I should make too much
rest
fun.
my
We
case.
both literally were watching Wilson Phillips' video before this
very
podcast started.
23 young girls and Mark Middleton are missing.
So yeah, that there was a lot. If anyone, have you seen Sleepaway Camp?
Yes.
So it had sort of that vibe at the end where it was just like, let's throw in this crazy gender bending nonsense.
Absolutely. However, Sleepaway Camp came out after.
That was like
this movie.
83 or something.
Here's the question. Do you think Sleepaway Camp was stealing something from Unhinged?
Maybe.
That would be crazy.
That would be pretty interesting because
Sleepaway Camp is like really famous for its
Oh
ending.
yeah.
Where
And what is that show? It's not a show. It was Wet Hot American Summer. Like directly parodies Sleepaway Camp, like down to their clothing and some of the characters and stuff like that. So technically, that could be influenced by
Unhinged. Wow.
But yeah, so I know this movie was going for atmospheric and tense and stuff like that, and I felt like sometimes it almost did it. I don't know if it was by accident, but then the rest of it was just. It felt like it was written by a foreigner for the first, like the way they talked was just
I
bizarre.
think that was just
and
the
I don't
acting.
know. And the acting was so bad. Like when I couldn't follow what they were saying, the girls, story wise, because I couldn't tell their chit chat, like their transitional chit chat from main plot, because it was just all delivered the same way. And it was like they were reading it off the page for the first time. And like I couldn't follow that at all.
So don't get me wrong. I am glad that this movie exists because this is the only movie of its kind that we were probably ever going to get to watch doing this podcast.
Yeah.
And it's not a terrible film of its kind, you know, if you want to see a typical 80s slasher
And
flick.
I do think if they tightened up the editing, because so much of it is just such flat editing that it could be turned into like a really great 1 hour movie.
Exactly, like a 20-minute featurette.
Well, if you remember, we did watch the trailer at some point, and we were just like, holy crap, that was filmed in Portland?
Yeah.
And we were like, that's going to be amazing.
That's gonna be so good. But it was a lot. I mean, and all of the kills. So the second girl gets killed with the axe to the head, which you don't see. You see the aftermath. So, like, none of the kills were all that great. And even the last one where she was hacking Terry with a machete, you only saw her swinging the machete.
Yeah.
Like you didn't see anything that was like interesting or great or.
Low. I mean, it's low budget. Yeah. They didn't have, you know, the special effects to be able to hack into a mannequin and make it look reasonable.
I do have one more thing. So we not only get right out of the gate the gratuitous nudity at the beginning, but right before the first kill, like at maybe minute 35, after they take another nap or they go to sleep again, all of a sudden both girls
are in the
shower again.
Yeah, together.
And did you hear what they were talking about? Because I wrote it down.
I don't remember what
so
they
they're
were
in the shower,
discussing
and the guy is peeping through his peephole or whatever. Which, but the one girl, probably Terry, says, "Oh, be sure to tell my mom to pick up my dad's birthday present at Dillard's." Oh, I didn't mean to. That was the conversation. And the other girl said, "Oh, baby," and like you couldn't hear that.
Maybe that wasn't the script. Maybe they were just actually talking,
ad-libbing. No, they
were asked to take a shower.
Know they were on camera.
Yes.
It was so weird. Like, had nothing to do. We had never heard about her dad, a birthday, like anything concerning the plot. It was just, can you be sure to tell my mom
so
to pick up my dad's birthday present?
The other thing to note about this movie is it is somewhat infamous in that it is one of 72 movies. The infamous British video nasties.
Yes.
This is when the British censorship of video cassettes in the early 80s Due to a loophole, a lot of these video cassettes were bypassing British censorship, so they retaliated by banning, and they made a list of 72 films which were forcibly removed from shelves
Wow.
in Britain. And this movie was actually selling quite well on video cassette in Britain, and then it was pulled from shelves and not seen again for something like 20 years.
Everything I read about it, everyone kind of agreed that it was kind of rustled up unnecessarily. I mean, this movie is not graphic, other than a few blood
yeah,
squirts.
Compared to a lot of other films
Yeah.
that were censored. But
Yeah.
just the fact that it was on that list of censored films kind of gave it a reputation.
Yeah.
So that, over the years, collectors have sought out this movie. And it's funny, I really wanted to buy a VHS copy of this film because it was such a cool VHS box. Do you have any idea what they're going for on eBay?
How much?
About $100.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it did say that they released a DVD in 2004 in the United Kingdom, and then in the United States in 2005, and then again in 2012 by Code Red DVD.
So we are in Portland. If you ever see this on VHS, Todd, don't turn it into a notebook, please.
Don't turn it into a notebook. The DVD that came out in 2012 was limited to only 500 copies. The film was released in a remastered DVD in 2014 in the United Kingdom. So that would be the wrong format.
And they even remade this movie. It came out this year. I watched a trailer for the remake.
Now, I knew there was another movie called that, but it doesn't.
There's actually like five.
Remake.
There's like 5 movies called
It
Unhinged.
is directly related to this movie.
Yep.
But yeah, there's a movie that came out this year in England.
Oh, wow.
It was
obviously
a direct remake.
Obviously not filmed here. But
No, not filmed here. Filmed
Wow.
in England. But it's funny, it's a slight twist. It takes place in England, but the girls are all American girls touring England.
Funny. Hostile style.
Yes.
From Portland.
All right.
So-
Any last thoughts on Unhinged?
Unhinged. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend
I was
it.
gonna say, would you recommend? It is free on YouTube, and it doesn't appear that anyone's trying to take it out. Both of these movies actually are free on YouTube right now. So, yeah, I mean, if especially if you like
If you want something to watch in October this month that you have not seen before, and you live in Portland,
grindhousey, low budget,
give it a watch.
Totally. All right. Do we want to move on to The Haunting of Sarah Hardy?
The Haunting.
Yes, we do.
So The Haunting of Sarah Hardy, I originally thought was a Lifetime. It was made for TV, and I assumed it was a Lifetime movie, but it turns out...
I did too. It's a Bernstein Bears effect. We just all...
Totally. It actually was for the USA Network, so kind of close.
Same thing.
Whatever.
But yeah, it was filmed in, again, the 22-room Pittock Mansion.
What is it about, Todd? What happens?
So The Haunting of Sarah Hardy is like I said, a USA movie about this girl who, the movie starts in a flashback where this little girl is at her dad's funeral, and the mother is very cold and withdrawn, and eventually at the reception after the funeral at the house, it has a daughter come up and she says, "You and him were better. You loved him more than you loved me. Just admit that you wanted me to die," and makes the little girl say it. So the little girl says, "Oh, I wish it was you instead of him." And the mom freaks out and jumps out a window and walks into the ocean.
Now, when that happened, did you think that she was going to plunge to her death when she jumped out the window?
I did.
Yes, of course.
Because the funny thing about this is that it is filmed at the Pittock Mansion, which in this movie is located on a bluff over the Oregon coast.
Right, they're using Free Willy geography.
They are. So every time they go outside, they run for a little bit and they're at the ocean. So the mom walks into the ocean, which I thought was I liked that scene because it was scary to me for some reason, just watching someone just walk purposely into the ocean, and I knew it must have been freezing. And they all ran into the water. So that was the flashback that it opens with, and then it moves to 12 years, I think, later, and we get Sela Ward, who is the star. She was in, the reason I knew her is she was in the 90s show Once and Again, that came out at the same time as like a show called Relativity and like kind of those grown up My So-Called Life type shows.
She was in a bunch of stuff.
And I didn't recognize the male lead, either of them.
No.
Bunch of Young and the Restless, Days of Our Lives, the
Every
man.
other Lifetime movie.
Yeah,
Dr. Glasses.
Dr. Glasses.
No, he was in a ton of soaps.
Okay.
And so the husband.
Yeah, so this is full on
and-
like we keep saying
and-
Lifetime movie.
and the psychiatrist. But
yeah.
So
they
it's
were-
important to point out that in that flashback, like it's the girl whose father died and her mother's crazy and killed herself, but it's 3 childhood friends. It's the girl and then her 2 friends, a girl with blonde hair and then a guy, a little boy
with enormous glasses.
Enormous glasses.
So that we'll
But-
know which
but
one
don't
he is.
They never really emphasize like they make a couple like side references to that they were childhood friends, but it took me a while to piece that together and put that. These are the same people.
Yeah, and I think I only did because they did the glasses thing. I was like, this guy, because the adult grown-up guy has these ridiculously big square glasses.
I put that together right away.
So so they all grow up. Sela Ward, the main character, the little girl, is getting married to Austin. His name is, and they decide to move back to the Pittock mansion, which is they call it something else in this movie.
Because her mother, after the death of her mother, she inherits it, along with the fortune of the family.
Yeah, and then but hadn't moved there, and she's moving back with the husband to confront her demons.
And they call it the Pines.
Yeah, they do. And so so the grown-up children are what I keep calling Dr. Glasses. His name is Alan. He is a therapist, friend,
psychiatrist.
Yeah. He's her psychiatrist.
We'll get into
There's
that.
some stuff.
We'll get into
I
that
have questions.
tangled relationship. And we also have Morgan Fairchild, who is in full 80s bloom in this with her giant white cascading hair and just shoulder pads upon sweaters, upon turtlenecks, upon... I mean, she looked like a linebacker this entire movie. She had shoulder pads that went down to her elbows. They were like... It was insane. So they're all grown up.
Grace Jones, a run for her money.
She's a Bond villain suddenly halfway through this movie. So they move back. What would you call the older woman? She's not the butler because she's a woman. Is she the butless?
The groundskeeper?
The keeper of the house, I guess. Not like the maid. But
and had she been hiring her for years?
That's what
while
I
she wasn't
wondered.
living
So
there?
she grew up with this woman who was like the house caretaker, I guess you want to call her, and was raised by her and all that. But yeah, after moving back, I was unclear if she, and her name was Miss Stepford.
Oh.
Because I think it was a lazy reference to Stepford Wives somehow. But yeah, I was unclear if she lived there the whole 15 years that. But anyway,
I think so because
she must have kept up the place.
She said, "Do you know how long I've worked for your family?"
Yeah,
too
long.
That made me sad. But so they get married. It was when they had the wedding reception. Was that
where was that?
Was that in the house? It was like a ballroom or a big open room.
It felt bigger than the house.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure.
It could be in the house. It could be another location.
Yeah. So anyway, but my favorite.
So far we've got the Pittock Mansion and we've got the Oregon coast.
Yep.
Yeah, and those are pretty much. Well, we have one more location that I can't figure out, and that's where the psychiatrist Dr. Glasses works.
Yeah, I didn't know where that was.
You wondered, Mark, if it was Reed College because like the buildings kind of look like that oldish.
that's right.
But yeah, we'll put that on the Facebook page and see if
somebody
if
help
it looks
us.
familiar because I'm not very familiar with Reed.
Not credited anywhere.
But at their wedding reception, a thing that keeps coming back in this movie is lilies because the mom there's lilies she had to put on her dad's grave.
Yep.
Then there are lilies found in their greenhouse or whatever. But they're at their wedding reception and someone says, "Oh, you got some flowers," and it's a bouquet of lilies, and there's no card or the card is not signed or whatever. And they walk out, and there is this old woman at the party who's standing there, and she says, because Sarah looks at it and is like, "Oh, these are lilies," and she storms out or whatever. And the old woman goes, "Well, I think it's perfectly tacky. You don't send lilies to a wedding, do you?"
Yes.
And her little friend goes, "No, you don't." Is that a rule that I was not aware of? You're not supposed to bring lilies to a wedding.
I'd never thought about it before.
And she was and I think she comes back later during when they find out that Sarah is pregnant, she also says, "Oh, I'm so glad they're not waiting to have children. I hate
I wrote
these
that down.
40-year-olds with their toddlers."
I immediately figured out what age the actors were during that scene because I was like, they got to be close to 40.
Which was just to have her pop up in the background and say like negative things and then like scurry off screen was amazing. But there was a lot of
For reference, they were 33 and 34.
wow. In their 40s. So the last movie, Unhinged, had gratuitous nudity right out of the gate. And what I figured the female equivalent was for these Lifetime movies is make-out scenes. Not sex scenes, but that gross, wet,
uncomfortable
kissing
like
noises.
The room level uncomfortable makeout scenes.
It was like listening to someone eat a peanut butter sandwich.
It looked like he was trying to eat her head.
You know what I would do for $10,000? Anything you want.
Bring your checkbook.
Bring your
that's
checkbook.
Right. They had so many just unnecessary makeout scenes in this movie.
In the 90s, it was supposedly sexy to show your back. Just like, let's get some back shots.
That was very risque. And there was the sexy saxophone.
Yes.
All over this
Every
movie.
time it happened.
I wish I would have marked down a good spot. I think I might have one later. But yeah,
it was like on cue.
It's that silk stockings trill of a saxophone into
moonlighting intro.
Red Shoe Diaries.
But yeah, there was.
That's how you knew it was a Lifetime movie and not a Hallmark channel.
Exactly. Well, this was on the USA Network, so this maybe was on USA
Late night Hallmark.
all night. Do you guys remember that?
I only do because I saw that this movie was with another movie on an instance of Up
USA
All Night.
Up All Night. That's what I remember. So we also get the Dr. Glass's friend who has painted hair.
Oh, was it?
That his gray, because he has longer hair, but it's shown to be gray, and it looks like the worst community theater
it's
old
totally,
man spray makeup.
Right. It's totally
okay.
It's totally the high school actor as a 60-year-old.
Totally.
So
I've been out here all these years.
So what we learn about this character is that they have remained friends throughout the years. And he has always had affection for her, which she has not necessarily returned. And he has become her psychiatrist. Like, she visits him and has therapy sessions with him. And then after her wedding, we learn that she's pregnant. And then he is the one to call her to let her know she is pregnant. How does that work?
I had so many ethical and moral issues with this man. Because they grew up together. He acts as her therapist. He is in love with her. He delivers the news to her that she's pregnant. He
might also be her gynecologist.
Because you remember what he says?
That's what I think.
They're talking at the party and they're like, we've got to stop this. You know, we have to stop these looks with each other. There's like a love triangle. And Sarah says, we have to stop looking at each other. And Dr. Glasses goes, Sarah, I'm your doctor. I have to look at you. And it's like, gross. Because, is he the gynecologist as well? Because he's like, you're pregnant. The other doctor called me your friend.
Well, it is
the
Oregon coast. So
and it was the 80s when all of women's health issues had to go through a man of some sort.
HIPAA compliance didn't exist at the time.
So that's actually a funny point. Good time to point out that both of these movies, so Unhinged and Sarah Hardy, they both took place in fictional Oregon towns. Sarah Hardy in Lewiston, Oregon, and Unhinged in Pinewood, Oregon.
I didn't hear Lewiston.
You didn't hear it. That's correct. When she's ruffling through papers, you see an address, and it's addressed to Lewiston, Oregon. But that doesn't matter at all.
That's funny.
What I wanted to point out was that Unhinged took place in Pinewood, Oregon, and then the Pittock Mansion in Sarah Hardy is called The Pines.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Connections.
So, speaking of connections, I'm about to blow your mind.
All right, let me sit up here.
So Marion Penrose.
Yeah.
Everyone remember
Who was
Marion
from
Penrose?
Unhinged. She was the matron in Unhinged.
Same actress as Sarah Hardy's mother.
No way.
Absolutely.
No
Yes.
way.
Yes. Same actress.
Oh my gosh. P.E. something her name is? Or
What?
something?
Yep. Totally.
Wow.
IMDb says it's true.
Boom.
Oh my-
Wow. What are the chances?
Okay. All right.
Maybe she just lives at the Pittock Mansion, is in every movie. She's gonna be in Body of Evidence later.
She lives in the walls, and they just wheel her out when there's
She is the wall
filming.
man.
Yeah.
She is literally the wall man. Wow, because she was. Was she good in Unhinged? I couldn't tell if she was really good and just struggling because the material
No,
was so bad.
I think she was the best of all of the actors.
Okay.
And
Oh, I agree.
Because
Yeah.
when in Sarah Hardy as the mom, I thought she was quite good as being the crazy mom that.
Well, she wasn't the mom. She was the Marion Penrose.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah,
daughter.
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in Sarah Hardy, she was the mom.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Oh, we should have her on the show. We have a list of people we need to get on this show. She's probably still around.
We'll just wheel her out of the wall.
She's still living there. They also show in.
Miss Penrose?
Can you do some heavy breathing
Hey,
for us?
we have a podcast request.
So I would say just like the movie Unhinged was like 90% dead silence and real time wine pouring. This movie was 90% Sela Ward doing something and then being distracted by a noise in the distance and going, and like
And
looking over to try to figure out what it was.
And just the stupidest editing. It would something major just happen. Like I just fired the person who has worked for
Raised
my
me.
family for 40 years. Oh well, you probably had a good reason for that. Let's go inside and kiss.
Yeah. Let's have a loud makeout
Like,
scene.
like what? Like he.
Yeah, because it was literally like as if she would be firing her mom because that lady raised her.
Totally.
So one of the things that she would hear, and it was kind of one of the spooky elements, it was the harpsichord piano music that was coming from the piano room. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember the scene at the beginning where her father is dead, and then her mother talks to her, and then they're like, your mother wants to see you again, go in there. And her mother's like, you hear this harpsichord music, and then it's just like, it ends on a dissonant chord, and it's just like the same dissonant chord over and over, and it's just like,
Yeah.
eh.
And everybody looks over.
Just add that to our list of obnoxious sounds in Portland movies.
Right next to that is our new list. Right next to Free Willy's Keiko noise.
So, Todd, you remember that MP3 I sent you?
I do. Oh,
I think this is the time where you open that MP3.
Okay. I'm excited. Are we ready?
As I was watching this, I was thinking that the most annoying sound in the world would probably be that chord played over the sound of Kiko crying, played over the sound of Dr. Giggles laughing.
Oh my God. I have a seizure. Okay, here we go.
Oh my word.
Holy cow. That is the worst thing I have ever heard.
That will be
That's
in
my
our
new-
haunted house.
That's my
on
new
Halloween.
my new
this
ringtone.
year. Oh yeah, that's
And that all goes
amazing
together
on all
astonishingly well.
I know.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, we also, where are we even in this movie? Sela Ward keeps being distracted, like we said, by these sounds, and she thinks she's seeing things out of the corner of her eye. So she thinks she's starting to get haunted
By her mother.
Yeah.
It's the haunting of
It's
Sarah
the haunting
Hardy.
of Sarah Hardy. So eventually she finds out through her psychiatrist friend that she is pregnant because she fainted. But there's another big party and she runs out trying to find the person that's lurking around that she thinks she sees. So she runs outside to the greenhouse, sees a bunch of lilies in there, freaks out, then runs back to the house and collapses. Wakes up in the hospital, find out that she is unpregnant. The guy says, we found out it would have been brain damaged.
Right.
is what he says.
You lost oxygen.
You lost oxygen, yeah. So they go back to the house, and Sela Ward kind of descends into a little bit more madness, still sees and hears things. Meanwhile, I have a question about Morgan Fairchild's character. So she is the childhood friend.
Yes.
She mentions early on she is an actress. She's a soap actress that she says, oh, I'm getting written out in 2 weeks or whatever. But for the rest of the movie, she's shown at rehearsals in a play where she is a witch, and they're apparently doing The Tempest.
Is it that, or
I don't know. Like,
Night's Dream?
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar, but I could not figure out what her job was. Like, she said she was on a soap opera, and every time they showed her, she's dressed.
It almost felt like she was an extra.
It really did. She was the person that held all the sweaters. They just put it all on her at the same time. So, oh boy, where are we in this movie? They have they have a lot of parties in this movie. Because then
she eventually has a nervous breakdown.
The haunting continues, and she eventually picks up the phone. She sees the phone is in use when they're in the mansion, and she hears her husband talking to Morgan Fairchild.
Does she know it's Morgan Fairchild?
I don't know. It's a woman that says, I'm going to come visit or something like that.
She just realizes that her husband is
they
cheating
are
on her.
childhood friends.
Right, they are. So that's the big twist, to show that the husband and Morgan Fairchild, cue sexy sex music and loud kissing, are trying to get Sela Ward to kill herself. Right? That's their plot.
No. They're going to kill her.
Yeah.
They're going to kill her because when she does end up killing herself, they literally say, she did it for us. And
and there was a scene where a husband guy pulls out like a kitchen knife, and
it's your turn.
What did that mean when she said it's your turn?
Because
have they done this before? Gone through the knife drawer?
No,
stabbing people?
There wasn't there. I'm forgetting. Right before that, there was somebody chasing her with a knife. She dressed up as the mom in the greenhouse and chased her with a knife.
Okay.
And then they cut to the kitchen, and so she had faked being the mom with the knife, and so now it's your turn to do it.
Okay. And so they were going to fill it. They drugged Sarah Hardy. They were going to fill the bathtub, and they were going to slit her wrists. And right as they were going to do that, they discovered Sarah is missing.
Yeah. And she left a suicide note.
Yeah. And so the next scene, they show the beach where the police are like, we found this bottle of pills at the beach. Therefore, she killed herself in the ocean, just like her mother.
And they'd been looking for her for like a half hour. When you hear this, because Hollywood, you have that clip queued up, Todd?
Oh, I do.
So this is one of those only because movie reasons. So they've only been searching for her for like a half hour, and they have no body.
Okay.
And then you hear this in the background.
We're going to continue the search, but it looks hopeless.
We were going to continue the search, but it looks hopeless.
Look, we've been out here for a half hour.
It's hopeless.
We've looked everywhere. So, Sarah goes missing, and the husband, Austin, and Morgan Fairchild celebrate. Morgan Fairchild celebrates by wearing the most enormous belt known to man. It's like one of those 80s belt dresses. It's the dress that has like a foot-wide belt around with like a head-size buckle, which was amazing. And they celebrate because they are going to inherit the house. They are going to inherit the Pines.
Which was their goal.
Their goal, yeah. So now they don't have to kill Sarah Hardy. But there is still a half hour left in this movie. So something has to happen. And Sarah...
Dr. Glasses suspects foul play.
Yes, as does Mrs. Stepford, the caretaker.
Are you going to give me my money?
And so Mrs.
Give me my money.
She doesn't care. She just wants. She's blackmailling.
She is. So yeah, she starts blackmailing the husband because she says things don't add up. So she's asking for $100,000.
Yeah, right. And to her credit, she doesn't have much love lost for 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 the lady either, because
that's true.
she just fired her after 40 years of
Raising her,
and just ditched her in an afternoon.
For making a phone call to her sister in Michigan.
Right.
Although Sarah thought that Mrs. Stepford or Miss Stepford was the one trying to haunt her and take the house.
Right.
That's why she fired her.
That's why she fired her. So, but yeah. So then at the end, boy. Oh yeah. So Alan shows back up. I forget what Alan.
Dr. Glasses
returns and says, "What's going on?" They turn him.
He's investigating. Like he goes there.
He looks in the greenhouse.
Yeah.
And he wanders off after Austin and Morgan Fairchild go back inside. And who shows up?
Yeah, Sarah reveals herself.
Hardy,
yeah,
who has been living in the forest for weeks?
Maybe
because they've had a funeral. They've decided who the house has gone to.
Probably with the brother from the other.
Carl. Her and Carl have been in the cave.
Now this movie showed a greenhouse, and the other movie showed like an outbuilding guest house. Are either of those on the property?
I didn't see the greenhouse,
okay.
So I don't know if that exists or not. But the outbuilding, is the ticket office now. It used to be the carriage house where the chauffeur lived.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if that greenhouse was part of it, but so Sarah is back. Who knows where she's been living? Sarah goes back into the house to go through her ex-husband's
because she wants proof that her husband
was going to kill her.
Not only was going to kill her, but her husband, she didn't lose the baby. Her husband paid for an abortion.
Yes. So that's what we find out when she goes through his stuff, is that when she fainted earlier and woke up and he said the baby would have been brain dead.
Right.
They called it a therapeutic abortion. Was on the bill.
So did he do that to make her only more upset to want to kill herself?
Yes, because they mentioned that later, but I can't figure out when this whole plan started.
Because if he was gonna just kill her, why go through the whole abortion thing? You know?
Because this is a Lifetime USA movie. We need them all. The only thing that didn't have was child abuse. Was not, or like a domestic violence situation was the only thing like that didn't get poured into this movie. But when did Morgan Fairchild, who's been lifelong friends with Sarah, and Austin, who shows up mid-movie to marry her, when did they start their plan?
I think it was from the beginning. Like this was the plan all along. Like before they even got married, it's like we're together. I'll marry her. We'll take all the money, and then we'll be together.
Okay.
I think.
Wow, that's a
if
long
con. If you care that much, Todd, you can read the novel because this movie was based on a novel by Jim Flanagan called The Crossing, and some lady wrote an entire blog post about how she loves this book. And if it's half as good as she claims, you're going to love this read.
Wow, I'm going to have to sit back and not ever read that.
And it takes place in New Jersey, but they changed it for this movie.
Because it was cheaper to film in Oregon. So at the end, so Austin, the husband, knows that Sarah has come back and looked through the files. He grabs a gun out of the desk.
Right, all bets are off.
All bets are off. He's wandering around trying to shoot her, sees her through one of the glass doors, sees her shadow, shoots her, except it's not Sarah Hardy, it's Morgan Fairchild. Somehow the bullet penetrated the 900 layers of clothing she was wearing. Austin accidentally kills Morgan Fairchild. Then
I have questions.
Okay. So the next scene, isn't the next scene the police showing up?
So the police show up and they put out an APB for Austin, who has escaped. And a short while later, they discover a car run off the road. The car is like in flames
on the coast.
And then Alan and Sarah show up, and the police need Sarah to identify the body. And Alan's like, "She's been through enough. I will do it." And he goes over there, and you just assume that the body was identified
because they show him. Yep. Now, my favorite part of it. Okay, picture this: the person who's trying to kill you goes missing, right? and they come up on this, and it's a loved one. They come on this fiery car crash. You just get there, you're bawling, you're inconsolable. The police do not ask you to identify a body, like, while the car is literally still on fire.
This is another because Hollywood moment, Todd.
They're like, come identify in this flaming wreckage on the side of the hill and tell me that this is your husband.
Right.
But yeah, we are left to assume that Dr. Glasses said, yeah, that's it. And so the next scene, we get our nice denouement. We have Sela Ward, Sarah Hardy, putting on her nice blue long negligee and getting ready to hop into bed with Dr. Glasses, and we see the man in the bed kind of sleeping. It's
no surprise at this point. You know that it's not Dr. Glasses.
Because of the way they don't show him.
Yeah, you see more sexy back. You've seen the sexy back before.
This is bringing sexy back.
Yes.
She gets into bed, and it turns out that it's the husband, Austin, is the one in the bed.
And he's going to kill her.
She screams. The movie ends.
So what did Alan identify?
What did he identify?
Right.
Where did he go? Where did the police go?
This ending makes no sense to me.
It made no sense.
It made me frustrated.
I wonder if it was a reshoot or something like that.
Like they demanded a change.
The
studio was like,
we
can't have
enough.
it end like that.
We can't just end with them identifying a body in a fiery car crash. That never happens.
Right.
We can't leave the movie on that.
We might want to make a sequel.
Yeah.
Let's make a franchise.
It was so ham-fisted and so dumb when they turned around and it was the husband somehow in bed. Oh.
Have you ever thought about this though? Like this movie, The Haunting of Sarah Hardy. How many movies have started with the title The Haunting
of a lot, because I accidentally watched several of them while trying to find this movie on YouTube. Which again, yeah, this movie and Unhinged is fully on YouTube, but it's called The Haunting of Sarah Hardy, not The Haunting of.
So just for reference,
all the other
ones.
There's 1977, The Haunting of Julia.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2014, The Haunting of Alice D. 2012, The Haunting of Helena.
Isn't there just The Haunting?
There's The Haunting.
1996, The Haunting of Lisa. 2008, The Haunting of Molly Hartley. 1990, The Haunting of Morella. 2015,
Sunshine
The Haunting...
Girl, Hill House, Cell Block 11, Connecticut, Winchester House, Braidwood Manor, Molly Hartley, Sunshine.
Like, holy crap! I didn't realize this was such a subgenre.
Yeah. So this movie, I would say if you are a fan of Lifetime movies, I would totally recommend. I thought it was really fun. I don't know how to watch it again, but it was really fun to watch.
Yeah, and again, as a Portlander, it is definitely it really covers the Pittock Mansion.
This one really does. Unhinged was so dark, like it was a shame because like that building would have been magnificent at night with like the right underlit, everything. The Haunting of Sarah Hardy is most of it seems to be done during the day, so you get bright shots of the mansion. It looks wonderful. The grounds look great.
And they're very careful to film it in a way where you can't see any of the Portland skyline behind it.
Oh, yeah, they do, because you didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so I would at least check them both out. If you like the flavor of what you're seeing, then you're in for that the whole movie, because they're a little one note, but they are really cool. And
I would say both of these movies are a great example of the genre that they are representing.
Oh, I would absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, totally. B-movie schlock and a Lifetime movie.
Yeah, like they're both schlock, but if you want Lifetime schlock or you want slasher 80s horror schlock, like here you go, filmed in Portland.
Totally. So yeah, do check those out. Check out the rest of our episodes. This is episode 12 already of this program. It seems like we just started. Oh, let's look back. Now we're done. Check out more. You can find all our episodes at portlandatthemovies.com. I will be updating our map of locations so you can see what Pittock Mansion looked like in both of these movies at portlandatthemovies.com/map. We also have, I posted a master list of the movies that we have going. So if you know of any other movies that were filmed, the majority of it filmed in and around Portland, let us know. And you can see that at portlandatthemovies.com/master list. You can see all those movies. So Find us on Facebook. Our live video has ended.
That's what
It
it
has
says.
decided to shut the show off for us.
Take a hint.
It
take
still
a
says
hint.
it's streaming here on this side. It's-
But also catch us on
Sorry.
Fun Employment Radio coming up on December 2nd at
is
the
exciting
Hawthorne Theater. It
news.
is awesome. There, we will be part of the Portland Podcast Festival. I think there's about 10 to 12 other podcasts. We will all be doing a live 20-minute version of our show, of our shows, and we will be there. We hope to see you there. It'll be really great. Fun Employment, of course, will be there. Geek in the City will be there. Rip City Bad Boys will be there. A bunch of stuff will be there. So check that out at portlandpodcastfestival.com. You can see the lineup and buy tickets. Brian, if we wanted to find more about the Unipiper, where can we go?
You can go to www.unipiper.com.
Nice. And can we see all those wonderful merch that KGW let you
Yes.
show on television?
Yes, the Unipiper Home Shopping Network is live at unipiper.com. We have socks, we have magnets, we have enamel pins.
Yeah.
If you don't see what you want, let me know because I'm a consumer whore and I will let you have it.
Yeah. Nice. If you want to hear more of me and Mark, you can hear more at the markandtoddcast.com, where every week we pick a different science or culture or whatever we find interesting topic, and we discuss it along with some science news. So it's really fun and really sporadic is what we cover. So find those at markandtoddcast.com. And every episode, Brian comes on and tells us what's going on around Portland. So you can find all of that on the internet. Any last thoughts on these scary Halloween movies?
This episode was not as bad as episodes past.
It was a lot of fun.
Our
Fun movies.
episodes
I
are
did
the-
not